Our fifth and final text structure is the problem-solution structure. This particular text structure is used to inform about certain topics by presenting them as a dilemma or concern, which would be a problem, and providing one or more remedies to address it, which would be the solution. So the author's purpose in using a problem-solution format is to identify a problem and then provide details about a solution or several solutions that could be used to effectively address the problem. Here's the thing about identifying the problem-solution structure, is it tends to be a rather complex structure to pick up on at first glance. In order to identify a problem-solution text structure, you need to know the other four most common nonfiction informational text structures. Oftentimes the author is going to present the problem as well as the solutions by using one or more of the other text structures. For example, most authors are going to describe the problem. So here we see the description text structure in use. Maybe the author will explain the events that led to or even the results of the problem. In this case, he or she will be using the cause and effect text structure. When presenting a solution, the author may list steps in a process, which will be a form of sequence. And then finally, the author may use compare and contrast to help determine which solution is the best. So it's important that you be able to identify the other structures so that you can recognize that they are being used by the author to present a problem and identify one or more solutions to that problem. To help better prepare you for being able to make those determinations, here are some helpful tips. So as I've already said, know the other structures. Know the difference between problem and solution, and I pointed out up here that it's similar to cause and effect. How to tell the difference between the two is that cause and effect is not going to present solutions. They just explain why or how something happens. So that's the key difference. It's also helpful to pay attention to the argument, the information needed to advance the argument or refute the counter arguments. Okay, so what we're saying there is look for what the author is arguing for. What are they arguing about? What are they arguing for? Also pay attention to any time that they disagree with a particular idea. In this case, they may offer a counter argument on why maybe a particular solution is not going to work. So examine the argument as a whole and the individual components of it. By doing that, it will help you best determine that we are looking at the problem-solution text structure. Some signal words to pay attention to are things like propose, solution, answer, issue, problem, problematic, remedy, prevention, fix, as a result, dilemma, leads to, conclude, or resolve. So if the author is using these words, once again, as we've seen with the other structures, these signal words will actually help us determine whether or not the author is using this particular text structure. As an example for how this structure is used and to practice identifying problems and solutions, we're going to take a look at a passage on teen pregnancy. It seems like there has been a surge in teen pregnancies these days. Teen pregnancies make it very difficult for young mothers to pursue their dreams and meet the demands of an infant. Fortunately, most teen pregnancies can be easily prevented by using birth control. However, even birth control is not 100% effective. The most effective way to prevent teen pregnancies is abstinence, which is 100% effective. All right, so what is the problem that the author presents in this passage? Well, we see it in the first sentence. It seems like there has been a surge in teen pregnancies these days. So that word surge means on the rise. So in this case, our problem is teen pregnancy on the rise. All right. So, what are the solutions that the author presents to prevent teen pregnancies? Well, here we see him offer two. So, most teen pregnancies can be easily prevented by birth control, and then prevent teen pregnancies, abstinence. Okay, so in this situation, the two solutions that are offered are birth control and abstinence. All right, so problem, teen pregnancy on the rise. The author presents two solutions, birth control and abstinence. Now, are there any other text structures that we see in use in this short passage? Well, upon a closer look, we can say yes. For example, we see cause and effect in use. So there's an increase in teen pregnancies. So the surge in teen pregnancies is the cause. The effect, make it very difficult for young mothers to pursue their dreams and meet the demands of an infant. So we see the cause is teen pregnancies on the rise, and the effects difficulties pursuing dreams, and then meeting the demands of an infant. Are there any other text structures? Well, of course. We see compare and contrast in use. Well, Mr. Blankenship, where is that? Well, it's a compare and contrast of the forms of birth control. Okay, so how are they compared and contrast? Well, abstinence is said to be 100% effective. Birth control is said to be not 100% effective. So even though birth control and abstinence are both ways, they're similar in that they are ways that we can combat teen pregnancy due to the fact of the difference in effectiveness. That is intended to help make an informed decision on which form of, or which solution, I should say, is the better choice. And then finally, we see sequence, order of degree, because abstinence is referred to as the most effective between the two. So abstinence is seen as most effective. So that tells us that the author seems to be leaning towards abstinence as the best solution to prevent teen pregnancy. Venice is a very special city in Italy. What makes it special? Venice is almost completely surrounded by water. Venice does have streets and roads like other cities, but Venice also has special waterways called canals. People use boats to move along these canals. The people of Venice have always loved their city. Many people visit Venice to see the beautiful bridges and other buildings. There are hundreds of old houses, famous churches, and lovely fountains. But the city of Venice is facing a problem. The tides are rising. Each day there are 2 high tides. Each day the water rises and covers streets and roads. The water comes up to the windows of buildings. The problem is even worse when there are storms. Storms make tides even higher. The city of Venice could be completely flooded. Scientists have worked to find a solution. They planned a set of 78 steel gates in the water outside of Venice. These gates will be able to open and close. When the water is calm, the gates will open, but when there are storms, the gates will rise and protect the city. Will the gates work? No one really knows. But the people of Venice hope that these gates will save their city from the high tides. All right, so what do we learn from this passage? What is the problem? In this case, it's fairly easy to identify. Because it tells us the city of Venice is facing a problem. The tides are rising. Okay? What solution does the author present to protect the city from the rising tides? Well, guess what? The passage also directly tells us the solution. In this case, only one solution is presented. So it says they planned a set of 78 steel gates in the water outside of Venice. All right, so the solution, 78 steel gates in the water outside of Venice. Okay? 78 steel gates is the solution to the rising tides.